Well, yeah, superficially, listen, I mean, anyone who has plans to stop illegal migration gets my support. But the reality is that we've been around this block several times, and only a robust and credible policy will work. I also think it's no coincidence that we are 2 days away from local elections
Yes,
and a by-election,
noted.
that this announcement has been made today, and Labour is struggling. So I think well, the cynic in me suggests that this is a political announcement aimed at trying to persuade a very cynical public about Labour's soundness when it comes to border control.
I th- I don't disagree, but I think that there will be a lot of people, members of the public, who think, my God, how was it ever the case that we were granting asylum to people who committed horrendous acts of sexual violence?
Yep, absolutely. Listen, when I was Home Secretary, when I was Attorney General, and even before that, when I was a lawyer defending the Home Office, Theresa May, I was effectively defending the Home Office in court in immigration cases. We've had countless instances where foreign criminals, foreign sex offenders, foreign rapists have, been successful in pleading their right to stay in the country. And our laws have been hijacked by illegal migrants, by foreign criminals, particularly our human rights laws. And they have very seriously undermined the state's ability to control the border and kick out illegal migrants or foreign criminals.
If the law allows for something to happen that is against the wishes of the governing party of the day, why weren't those laws changed when you were Attorney General or when you were Home Secretary?
Great question that I have reflected on myself deeply. When I was Home Secretary, and you'll say had the chance to fix the problem myself, I had this very debate with many of my own cabinet colleagues. I wanted us to pull out of the European Convention of Human Rights. I've been going on about why we need to do it and why we must do it urgently for several years now,
Yes.
much to the horror of many of my own parliamentary colleagues.
But is that the only answer?
It's not the only answer, it's the beginning of an answer, but it's an essential part of an answer. As long as we are members of the European Convention of Human Rights and subject to the European Court of Human Rights in Strasbourg, and therefore bound by the jurisprudence and the case law that comes from the European Court of Human Rights, we will have no sovereignty over our border control, and we will not be able to kick out the illegal migrants or the foreign criminals.
The current Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, basically said as much when she was describing this policy earlier, that it would obviously there would have to be challenges made to it. People's Article 8 right to a family life and what have you might be tested in court as part of their argument to want to stay. Is it not very arguably the case that while someone has committed a very serious crime here, sending them back to a country where they would face, let's say, death would be morally wrong for Britain to be involved in doing?
Well, I think that someone who comes to this country and breaks our laws, and if they do so in a very serious fashion, they forfeit any right to be in this country anymore. If they have harmed the British people, they have no right to remain here. And people should consider their behaviour and their actions when they're in the United Kingdom as visitors. And if they breach our rules,
yes,
they have to be sent back.
Well, there are, as you know, people who are sentenced for over 12 months, foreign criminals, they can be deported. But in asylum cases, specifically where someone has achieved the status of an asylum seeker because of the threat to them in their own country, if they commit a crime here, should they be sent back to that country from which they fled?
I think it needs to be done on a case-by-case basis, and ultimately ministers or the government arms, Home Office, needs to have the discretion to make the decision. But largely speaking, yes, they should be going back. And the problem we have is that the concept of asylum and the concept of their violation of their human rights has been stretched so much that it doesn't even resemble what the original notions of asylum and refugee and human rights were intended to mean in the aftermath of World War II when these documents were signed. People are now claiming asylum because there are mad cases now that we're hearing about almost on a weekly basis. Someone's son didn't like the chicken nuggets in a foreign country, and that was a reason why this person wasn't deported to that country. Someone has a wife or a baby in this country, and therefore they don't get they are successful in claiming that they shouldn't be deported. There are countless examples of where the notion of asylum, refugee, and human rights have been stretched beyond all recognition, that they've made a mockery of the whole system.
Final question. Do you therefore think it is inevitable that your party, the Conservative Party, will come to the position of saying it needs to leave the European Court of Human Rights?
Well, I'm not in charge of the policy of the Conservative Party at the moment, so I don't know what will happen in the future. I very much hope it will. I have been campaigning for years now that it is our official party policy that we leave the European Convention of Human Rights. That is, as I say, not the end of the solution, but it's the beginning of one. We need to come out the European Convention of Human Rights and therefore extricate ourselves from the distorted application of human rights laws and refugee laws. We have to reform our judicial review so that it's not so easy to keep challenging legitimate decisions of deportation and removal by the Home Office. We need to seriously ramp up the enforcement and the robustness of our immigration enforcement and detection and investigation. The vast majority of asylum seekers and illegal migrants abscond, and the Home Office doesn't actually know where they are. So beginning the work of trying to identify many of these people and then remove them is an incredibly difficult task operationally. So there are a whole host of measures that need to be taken, but without leaving the ECHR, none of it's worth the paper it's written on.
Thank you as always.